Without naming names, can you tell us a story about how a studio took, was it your script or one of your ideas?
Which time? I'm really a big proponent on protecting your work. I will go on record to say, don't waste your $20 or $30 doing WGA West. It's a waste of time. It doesn't do any good. It's not going to do what you want it to do. Spend the extra $25 and do it with the USCO, the U.S. Library of Congress. U.S. Copyright Office is what that stands for. The process is just as easy. The copyrights last forever, not 5 years. Copyrights cover your legal expenses to defend the fact that you got ripped off. And as we're young and naive coming up in Hollywood, we tend to really love to share our work with people. And I always tell people, don't you dare send a script to anybody until it's finished and copywritten, because it's too easy. The person you're sending it to could steal it. The person that you sent it to could send it to a friend who needs an idea. Or, hey, I'm thinking about getting into screenwriting. Do you have any scripts laying around I can look at and kind of use as a model? Well, the easiest thing to do for a new writer is to look at somebody else's work and just copy it. It's just what happens. I've been ripped off over the years. I actually had a script get produced by a studio, who I'll not name. They actually went out and made the movie. It was a $9 million indie, low-budget film that they put the money behind to make. And they were dumb enough not to even change the title of the film or the character names. So I guess whoever brought it to them took my work and just put their name on a cover sheet and just did it as is. I got wind of this when they were in post. And what you're supposed to do when you get ripped off is you let the film come out, like let it get on the books and let the trailers start hitting. And then that Monday before the Friday is when you drop your bomb, because they are so vested in this with the 20 million in P&A or whatever it is, they're going to work out a deal with you. And instead, Stupid here knew somebody who worked at the studio. When I heard it was in post-production, I made noise about it, and then the film just disappeared. And it never came out. It was never finished. But they indeed, my friend got me a copy of the script. There was a polish on the script, but they kept the names the same. They kept the title the same. I go on IMDb. It's still there, unreleased, 15 years later. But it's just kind of funny. This movie got made that never even got finished. No release. So that was one. I've had agencies take projects and give them to showrunners days after we meet on them, sometimes hours after. I've had a project that was packaged by a major agency in an 2007 when the crash hit. My investors backed out. We were 3 weeks away from rolling film, and when the 2007 recession hit, my investors had to back out, so the project never got made. And then, weirdly enough, 2 years later, the packaging agent got a new client who shot pretty much the same script, wound up making it into Sundance and doing quite well. And at least they changed the title. They changed the character names. And the best part was they changed the opening scene. But the rest of the movie was pretty much in step. So, I don't make noise about that stuff anymore. I've learned, and that's probably why I become an independent filmmaker. If I have an idea I'm passionate about, I'm not sending it to you. I'm just going to go make it. That's where I've gotten. Is I just don't share my work with anybody. If it's something I believe in and want to do, it stays in-house and we'll do it.
So that's usually how a lot of people do it. If they feel their idea has been stolen, they wait till the week of.
Well, you'll often hear about a film that comes out and you'll hear writers are making noise. They said their idea was taken. And that's usually when the film is coming out. And what happens is you get the studio or the network so vested in the project, they've completely paid the entire process. Now they're going through the marketing and PA, and they've committed a good year and a half to the project, and then all of a sudden it's coming out. And it's not common, but it's not rare where you hear this movie's coming out and there's a couple of writers who say that they were ripped off. And more often than not, those stories disappear and go away. And I think if you're able to prove it, I always say, you have to take copious notes. I always say have a backup email address. So anytime you send a script to somebody, send it to another address you have, and keep those things, print them out, save them on a cloud, so you have a track record. If you send a script to somebody, you have a conversation with somebody, keep a journal. Hey, I spoke to this agent at this agency on this day about this actor and this project. Because, it's just, if you're going to ever make noise that you were ripped off, you have to have chapter and verse, copious notes on everything that you've done, or there's just ideas don't cut it anymore. You have to show that there was an interaction. It's kind of like the guys that pointed the finger at Zuckerberg for ripping off Facebook. I mean, they still probably got $200, $300, $400 million. It was an undisclosed settlement, but they were able to prove this guy took their platform and did something else with it. And that you have to think of it the same way. You have to have the blueprints for your work. You have to have detailed journal. You have to have your communications and when they were, what they were, and who they were with. So, yeah, and copyright them with the Library of Congress.
So is that true that it's easier for Hollywood to just deal with the lawsuit than pay?
I think everybody likes dealing with a lawsuit than going through the painstaking. It seems everybody today wants the easy way out. It's easy to rip off things. It's too easy to take advantage. I know a very prominent producer who's since passed away, so I'm going to tell the story without mentioning a name. He found a script. He was a very successful producer, and he had been nominated for an Oscar or 3, and found a script from an unknown writer who wasn't in a WGA or anything, and basically worked out a deal to pay the guy peanuts, and wound up becoming a very successful trilogy. And, just bought and sold the script over and over until he got it where it needed to go. And, it just seems like Hollywood's kind of copying itself anyway. I mean, that's what it does, right? Every story's been told. It's how we tell it. Shark movies are big right now. Let's make a shark movie. Football movies are big right now. Let's do a football movie. I mean, we capitalized on that with Gridiron Gang. We had We Are Marshall, you had Invincible, you had We Are Giants or Facing the Giants. Yet Friday Night Lights, it started it. So you had this movement of football movies. And it's no different. I mean, that's just what they do. Incidentally, what's interesting is the same guy who took that script for peanuts, it turned out, admitted to me later he was trying to make Gridiron Gang with another studio and he never had the rights to do it. So it goes to show you, it's people will just easily take an idea and run with it. And he never had the rights to do it. How do you feel when somebody rips off your work? I guess the old saying is imitation is the greatest form of flattery. But when you're reading the front page of the trades and a big star is attached to a project that you walked into an agency or a network, my dad always talks about how he had brought in a script back in the early 70s called Special Weapons Assault Tactics, and was told, nah, it's not for us. And then, years later, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. So I learned, be careful with your product, but how does it feel when you're ripped off? It hurts because you have that, it's almost, it's like if you've ever walked into your house after it's been robbed. It's the ultimate betrayal. It's the ultimate form of it's a violation. I don't know why somebody can't just say, hey, kid, you wrote a script. It's pretty good. The idea is there. We want to take it and work with it. We're going to pay you. I mean, just the deception that happens with these things. And I can't emphasize enough that you have to. I mean, it feels empty. You look at that time and most writers especially write things on spec because one day wouldn't it be great? And then one day you have a library of scripts that you can look back and say, I got these 10 scripts. But each script takes time, whether you're a fast writer or a slow writer. I know people that spend 3 months on a screenplay. I know people that spend 10 years on a screenplay. I know somebody who's actually on their 30th year on the same script. I cannot imagine if that got ripped off. I mean, 30 years. Think about it. So I tend to take things well, I tend to take bad news well. So I didn't get all wrapped up in it. I just, okay, lesson learned, chalk it up as a life lesson and move on.
Did you get any compensation for it, Shane?
I never got compensated. There are 3 projects that I did that I created that got taken. One was produced into a film that never came out. The other one went into pretty hardcore development at a major network with a big star attached. It never did come. There was another one that it was basically, we had a pretty good timeline and proof that there was a ripoff. And what was interesting is the institution, the studio, whatever you want to call it, that did the ripping off had also optioned another project from us previously. So what they basically did is they took intellectual property that they had optioned from us and put it into another project, a storyline into another project that they already greenlit. Totally separate. They were going to make that anyway. They were hoping to make ours. Ours didn't really come to fruition, so they kind of grabbed some stuff and threw it in there. we hired the best of the best lawyers, and they were unbelievable in how they structured this case and their timelines. And at the end of the day, nobody wants to go to court. Nobody wants to sue anybody. I'm a firm believer in the blacklist. I know people, and I don't mean the script side. I'm talking about people saying we're not going to work with him because. And it just got to a point where, other deals, other options were made. Hey, so do you get paid for it? No. Sometimes if it's handled in a certain way, and I think, right, you could possibly, you could entertain another deal or two with an institution that would admit maybe they wronged you or were upset you felt wronged. Optioning another piece of property for 2 or 3 years isn't uncommon, I guess, if you play your cards right. Basically what happened is they just said, look, all right, we did what we did. And you guys want to go through a lot. We're going to bankrupt you in lawsuits. It's going to take 12 years to, do you have something else we can option? And they're not going to make it, but that's how they do it. I mean, that's how it worked on the studio one. Yeah, they'll come up with creative ways to make you feel, or hey, why don't we give you a development deal? No, we don't have to pay you anything. They just take a few gratuitous meetings with you over the course of 2 years, and you feel like you got yours.
Interesting.
It's weird. It's a deceptive business, and I think that's what's driven me. I don't ever want to thumb my nose at Hollywood proper. I've had a lot of success in it, and thank God for it, and hope to work again in it. I don't count on it, and then I don't care if I don't. I went real rogue independent in what I do because I just got tired of dealing with a machine. I got tired of developing. Fall in love with an idea, put it together, whether you've got $8 or $800,000, and go do it. What's stopping you? I mean, the next film I'm doing, we're starting in a couple months, and it started because a group of us were sick and tired of sitting around during COVID, and we figured we can toss 2020 in the garbage bin like a lot of people are, or we can show something. We have something to show for it. And it was kind of like, we know 2 guys with 2 great cameras and a sound guy. We got actors that want to play. I got a great writer who's got a ton of material. I'll direct, produce, and cut the thing for free. I don't care. Let's make this year something. And then it turned into something where investors have gotten involved and better actors and bigger actors and crew. And now all of a sudden we have a real movie we're going to go make. And it happened because we just got sick and tired of sitting around and started putting things into motion. We never asked anybody for money. That was the last thing. We just wanted to get busy and have something to show for 2020. And the next thing you know, we're in full-blown pre-production on a show. So I think I like that. There's no development. Let's do it.